Today we are going through the Beastmaster Ranger build that I have made for you guys. This build focuses on having good versatility in combat, being able to leverage both ranged and melee combat, as well as having a pretty powerful pet companion to run around the battlefield with. Let's go. Today's video is sponsored by you guys. One, because you picked Ranger as our next build that we were going to go through, and two, because we are probably about to, or we've just hit 3K subscribers on the channel by the time this video goes out. Just want to say thank you to you guys for the support of late, all the comments, nice messages. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much, guys. The focus for this build is primarily on the Ranger companion. A Beastmaster Ranger can summon a companion to aid them in combat, and you do get a few beasts to choose from. These beasts are the bear, which has a solid amount of HP. It does a 1d8 melee attack, and it also has a taunt, so you can goad enemies into attacking the bear rather than your party. The boar has a 1d6 tusk attack, as well as a charge ability that can knock enemies down. The giant spider, which is probably going to be your primary companion, has a poison bite, which does a 1d8 plus 3 poison damage, as well as a ranged web ability which can ensnare targets that it hits. And the spider can also do an arachnid jump, which means they can jump a huge distance in combat. Ravens can fly to cover large distances and can blind enemies with their attack. However, ravens only have 1 HP. A wolf has a single attack, which is a 2d4 rolls, and the attack can also knock enemies prone. The best option here is hands down the giant spider companion. The spider has 32 HP, a 14 armor class, has a really good, decent damage attack in its poison bite, the 1d8 plus 3 poison, as well as the arachnid jump, allowing them to jump basically anywhere in the battlefield just for the cost of an action. Now, all of these stats and the choices in the companion may change after early access, but for the early access at least, the giant spider is the best option. As the ranger yourself, dexterity is your primary stat, and this gives you versatility to use both your melee combat and ranged combat, so you can freely switch between the two depending on the situation and whether you do want to actually get close to the enemy that you're fighting against. Now, let's talk about this custom character and how to build it out. Starting as always with race, there is a couple of options here, each with their own strengths. The first being the wood elf, which has a +2 to dexterity and a +1 to wisdom. The wisdom attribute is important here as it is a ranger's spellcasting ability, so it is valuable to get that extra +1 by going the wood elf route. Wood elves also have dark vision, which is always a positive. The next option would be the drow, which also have +2 to dexterity, and they also have superior dark vision, which doubles the distance of your dark vision, which is a huge bonus for the second half of the early access. The last option that I would recommend would be the Strongfoot Halfling, which has a +2 to Dex and a +1 to Constitution. They also have Lucky, which is a decent benefit, so when you roll a 1 on an attack roll, you get a re-roll for free, but you do have to take that re-roll, so even if you roll a 1 again, doesn't really matter. The downside here is no Dark Vision, which if you're going to go a ranged ranger, you definitely want to have Dark Vision on your character for the extra hit chance. In terms of backgrounds and skills, you want to pick skills that align with your Dexterity and your Wisdom, as these are going to be your highest stats. So for Dexterity, that's Acrobats, Sleight of Hand, and Stealth. And for Wisdom, that's Animal Handling, Insight, Medicine, Perception, and Survival. Obviously, personal preference, you can choose whatever you like here. For attributes, your primary stat is going to be Dexterity, and you should be able to get this to 17 during the character creation, followed by Wisdom as your spell casting ability uses Wisdom, and Constitution for the extra health that you get from that. The other stats aren't really important, and you can minimize them as much as you like. If you do go this route with Wisdom on 15 and Dexterity on 17, when you hit level 4, you'll be able to get both of these to the next even number for the benefits that you get from there. Now, when building a ranger, you do get some options in the character creator, the first being the favored enemy, and it isn't really too critical what you pick here, but a couple of options that you should look at is Mage Breaker for the True Strike cantrip. This allows you to have advantage on the creatures that are affected by True Strike. The other good one is Sanctified Stalker, which is okay. It's not as good as the Sacred Flame cantrip, isn't as good. I do talk about this more in depth in my cleric build. However, the cantrip uses a dexterity saving throw, and basically every enemy has a high dexterity, so this attack fails very often. For your natural explorer, it is personal choice between Beast Tamer and Urban Tracker. If you aren't going to have a rogue in your party like Astarion, then probably go Urban Tracker. Otherwise, Beast Tamer is a good option. However, this is 100% outclassed by the Beast Master that you get at level 3, so it becomes redundant at that level. You could go one of the resistances options, being fire or poison are the primary ones, as there isn't a whole lot of cold damage that you'll get throughout the early access. Now, putting the build together, as you start to level up, at level 2, you get to choose a class passive, and you should really pick here based on whatever your primary weapon choice is. As for this build, we are using dual wielding and archery. Whatever you choose as your primary, if you are going more ranged route or melee, choose that option for dual wielding or for archery. For me, I chose dual wielding as I am primarily focused on melee in the current playthrough that I'm using. You will also get some spell slots at this level, and there is a few options here. As with all spells, have a read and choose what suits you, but a couple of standouts here, one being Hail of Thorns, shoots a volley of thorns at the enemies and it deals 1d6 plus 3 piercing damage to surrounding creatures, but be mindful this also does damage your allies if you do hit your allies with this ability. The other option being Ensnaring Strike, which ensnares the enemies as well as doing piercing damage. This is valuable if you want to keep enemies centered in one position, and it's also a good range spell for you to use. At level 3, it is time to finally pick your subclass, and we are going Beastmaster as that is what the focus of this build is, which gives you these companions that you can play around with. We've already touched on which ones you should use, but this is the route you should take. At this level, you will also gain another spell slot, and again, personal preference. Cure Wounds is really valuable if you aren't going to have a cleric in your party. Even if you are going to have a cleric, having extra healing in your party is never a bad idea. At level 4, it's time to pick your feat. Now at level 4, the ability improvement feat is probably the best option, as with any build, to get your dexterity to 18. If you did go the stats we mentioned earlier, you can also put the other point into wisdom to get that to 16. Otherwise, the priority should be to get your dexterity to 18 regardless. An alternative option that you could do is go the dual wielder feat, which will allow you to dual wield rapiers if you are focusing on the dual wielding melee route. This will mean that each attack will roll a 1d8 as you are having a rapier in each hand. However, in my experience, it is a better idea to go the straight dexterity increase across all of your rolls compared to the niche option of the dual wielding feat. For equipment, there is a few things you can look at. As we are dual wielding, there is 2 green short swords that you should look at and equip. The steel forged sword is found in the Blighted Village in the well. Go down there, have a little peek around, you'll find it. And the short sword of First Blood is found on the body of a gnome in the Decrepit Village in the Underdark. Both of these short swords are very valuable to use and have their own effects, and they will increase your damage output by a pretty substantial amount. Rangers both have light and medium armor proficiency, so scale mail armor here or Lazil's Githyanki armor if you're not using Lazil are both good options, but also the drow armor is pretty dang stylish. So, you know, if you want to look the part and you do choose the drow race, why not just rock the drow armor? In terms of gameplay and some tips for you guys, if you are going ranged, high ground is super valuable here for the increase to your advantage as you are going to be above enemies. So you want to try and get there as much as possible. Hail of Thorns, as a warning, does hit allies. So be careful where you cast this. It is an AoE spell, so just make sure you aren't hitting allies in the cone of that ability. When in melee range, be sure to use your offhand attack as your bonus action to get an extra bit of damage onto enemies and hopefully finish them off. And in terms of companions, I've already touched on why you should go the spider, but regardless of which companion you choose, your focus should be on having them tank all the damage as possible so that it's not actually hitting your party members. At the end of each fight, you can recast the companion and just get a new one for free at full health. So it doesn't matter if the spider dies or if they take a ton of damage, you can just recast the ability and get another one for free. And that is the Ranger build for you guys. The Ranger is a ton of fun. I am really enjoying zooming around the map as a spider and just poisoning people all over the place. It's a good time. Let me know in the comments below how you would build your Ranger if you went the Hunter route or the Beastmaster route. I prefer Beastmaster because I enjoy the beast, but it is entirely up to you how you want to build that character. Please follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and on Twitch, where I stream 3 days a week, Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday, Australian night times. All those links are in the description down below. Thank you for watching this video. My name is Norza, and I hope you have a great day.